Hello, everyone, and welcome back, or welcome for the very first time to English Inside Out. I'm Anna, and this is a space where we slow down a little, breathe, and talk about English life and the thoughts that usually stay inside our heads. If you're listening while walking, resting, driving, or just needing a calm voice today, we're really happy you're here with us. And today's episode is a very gentle but powerful one. We're talking about investing in yourself. And a truth that can feel uncomfortable when you really think about it. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Hey everyone, I'm Mark. And like Anna said, if this is your first time here, welcome. This podcast is basically two people having honest conversations about learning, habits, fear, motivation, and all the invisible things that shape our lives. We don't have all the answers, but we ask the questions that matter. And today's theme is one of those questions that stays with you. Because most of us, at some point, feel stuck. Not dramatically stuck, just quietly. Days pass, weeks pass, and life feels repetitive. You're doing things, but you're not really moving forward. And that's exactly where this idea comes in.
I've been thinking a lot about this feeling lately, that strange mix of being busy but not fulfilled. You wake up, follow your routine, take care of responsibilities, maybe scroll on your phone at night, and then you promise yourself that tomorrow you'll start changing something. Tomorrow you'll study more. Tomorrow you'll take better care of yourself. Tomorrow you'll finally begin, but tomorrow often looks exactly like today. And I don't say that with judgment, I say it with understanding, because I've been there many times.
Yeah, and the hardest part is that from the outside, everything can look fine. You're functioning, you're doing what you're supposed to do. But inside, there's this quiet voice saying, is this it? Is this really all I'm doing with my time and energy? And that's when this sentence hits you. Nothing changes if nothing changes. It sounds obvious, almost too simple. But it's one of those truths we avoid, because once we accept it, we realize something important. If our life isn't changing, it's not because we're unlucky. It's usually because our habits, choices, and patterns are staying the same.
Exactly. And when we talk about investing in yourself, many people immediately think of money, courses, books, apps, programs, but real investment goes much deeper than that. It's about where your attention goes, where your time goes, what you repeat every day, even without noticing. Because every day, whether we realize it or not, we're investing in something. We're investing in distraction or growth, in comfort or progress, in staying the same or becoming someone new.
And the tricky part is that staying the same often feels safer. Even when we're unhappy, familiarity feels comfortable. Our brains love routines, even the ones that don't serve us. So we tell ourselves stories like, I'll start when I have more energy, or I just need the right motivation, or now isn't the right moment. But weeks turn into months, and months turn into years. And suddenly, the life we wanted still feels far away.
That's why I love connecting, investing in yourself with this idea that nothing changes unless something changes. Because it takes away the pressure of big transformations. It reminds us that change doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. It can start very quietly with awareness. Just noticing your patterns, noticing where your time goes, noticing what you keep postponing, and gently asking yourself one simple question. What is one small thing I could do differently?
And that's such an important point. Small, not everything. Not your entire life. Just one small shift. Because the moment you do something different, even in a tiny way, you break the pattern. And breaking the pattern is where change begins. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to feel confident. You just need movement. A small step forward is still a step away from being stuck.
So if you're listening right now and feeling a little tired, a little unmotivated, or a little disappointed in yourself, let this episode be a soft reminder. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're just human. And growth doesn't start with pressure. It starts with honesty. Today, we're not here to tell you to change everything. We're here to explore what happens when you finally decide to change something. One habit, one choice, one moment.
And that's what we'll keep talking about today. Slowly, gently, honestly. Because sometimes one small decision to invest in yourself quietly changes everything. You know, Anna, something that really stays with me when we talk about change is this question. Why is it so hard to do something we know is good for us? I mean, most people already know what they want. They want to feel healthier. They want to speak better English. They want more confidence, more focus, more peace. The problem usually isn't knowledge. It's action. And I think a big reason we don't act is fear. Quiet fear. Not fear that screams, but fear that whispers. Fear of failing. Fear of starting and not finishing. Fear of realizing that even if we try, the result might not be what we imagined. So staying the same feels safer.
Yes, and I think that's such an important thing to say out loud. People often blame themselves and think, I'm lazy or I have no discipline. But most of the time, it's not laziness. It's protection. Our minds are trying to protect us from disappointment, from embarrassment, from discomfort. Staying in the same routine might feel boring, but it's familiar. And familiarity gives a false sense of security. Even when we're unhappy, at least we know what to expect. Change, on the other hand, asks us to step into uncertainty. And uncertainty is uncomfortable.
Exactly. And that's why we postpone things. We say, I'll start on Monday, or when things calm down, or when I feel more confident. But confidence rarely comes before action. Confidence is built after we take small risks and survive them. That's why the phrase, nothing changes if nothing changes, can feel heavy, because it reminds us that waiting is also a choice. Not trying is also a decision. And those decisions quietly shape our future.
And the truth is, change doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for honesty. Honesty about where you are right now. About what you're avoiding. About what you keep telling yourself you'll do one day. When you really look at your life, you start to see patterns. The same thoughts, the same excuses, the same behaviors. And that awareness isn't meant to make you feel bad. It's meant to give you power. Because once you see the pattern, you can gently interrupt it.
And interruption doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be very simple. For example, if someone says, I never have time to study English, maybe the change isn't studying for 1 hour. Maybe it's 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of listening, repeating, or reading. That small action sends a new message to your brain. I'm someone who shows up. And identity is powerful. Once you start seeing yourself as someone who makes time, even in small ways, everything starts to shift.
I love that, because investing in yourself is really about identity. Every small choice answers a question. Who am I becoming? When you choose to learn even for a few minutes, you're saying, I care about my future self. And when you don't choose it, you're not a bad person. You're just staying where you are. And that's okay until it isn't. Until you feel that quiet discomfort that says, there's more for me than this.
And that discomfort isn't your enemy. It's a signal. It's life tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, you're ready for something new. But instead of listening, many of us distract ourselves. We scroll, we snack, we stay busy. Anything to avoid that feeling. And the problem is, avoidance doesn't bring peace. It just delays growth.
Yes, growth always asks for a little courage. Not loud courage, quiet courage. The courage to do something small and imperfect. The courage to be a beginner. The courage to stop waiting for the perfect version of yourself to appear. Because that version doesn't arrive first. You build it slowly through action.
And that's the heart of this episode. If nothing changes, nothing changes. But the moment something changes, even something tiny, your life begins to move in a new direction.
And you don't need to rush. You don't need to pressure yourself. Just notice. Choose one thing and start there. Mark, when we talk about change and investing in yourself, I think one of the biggest misunderstandings is the idea that change has to feel intense. People imagine discipline as something strict, almost aggressive. Like you need to force yourself, push harder, wake up earlier, do more, be more. And honestly, that mindset is one of the reasons people give up so quickly. Real change, the kind that lasts, usually feels much quieter. It's not about turning your life upside down. It's about slightly adjusting the direction you're walking in. Just a few degrees. And over time, that small shift takes you somewhere completely different.
That's so true. And I think habits are where that shift really happens. Because habits don't feel exciting, they feel ordinary, sometimes even boring, but they're incredibly powerful. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. And what I've noticed is that people often overestimate what they can do in 1 week and underestimate what they can do in 6 months or a year. They want fast results, but growth doesn't work on our schedule. It works on consistency.
Yes, and consistency doesn't mean doing everything perfectly. When someone says, I tried before and it didn't work, I always wonder what tried means. Did they try perfectly? Or did they try briefly? They need space. They need forgiveness.
And forgiveness is such an underrated part of self-investment. People are very strict with themselves. They miss one day, and suddenly they think, I failed. What's the point? But real investment means staying even when things aren't smooth. It means saying, okay, today wasn't great, but I'm still here. That mindset keeps the door open.
I think that's especially important for people learning English. So many listeners tell us they feel ashamed when they make mistakes. They feel slow. But learning a language is a perfect example of small investments adding up. One word learned today. One sentence understood tomorrow.
And it's invisible at first. That's the frustrating part. You don't wake up fluent one day. You don't suddenly feel confident overnight. But something is changing under the surface. Just like going to the gym. You don't see results after one workout. But your body remembers. Your brain remembers. And one day, you realize something feels easier.
That's such a beautiful metaphor. Change grows underground first. And because we can't see it, we doubt it. But it is. Every small habit is a vote for the person you're becoming. You're proving that you can show up.
And self-trust changes everything. When you trust yourself, you stop needing external motivation all the time. You stop waiting for someone to push you. You know that even if you feel tired or unsure, you'll still take that small step. That's real confidence. Quiet confidence.
Maybe it's simply, what small habit can I start today? 5 minutes of listening. 1 page of reading. 1 sentence spoken out loud. 1 walk without your phone.
Because once you start moving, momentum follows. And momentum is built from consistency, not intensity.
And that's how nothing slowly becomes something.
Anna, something I've been thinking about a lot is how often people confuse self-improvement with self-criticism. They think that to change, they need to be hard on themselves. Like if they don't feel pressure, guilt, or shame, then they're not taking growth seriously enough. But in my experience, pressure might create movement for a short time, but it rarely creates change that lasts. What really sustains growth is self-compassion. And that sounds soft, but it's actually very strong.
I agree so deeply with that. So many people speak to themselves in a way they would never speak to someone they love. The inner dialogue is harsh. I'm so lazy. Why can't I be consistent? Everyone else is better than me. And then we wonder why it's hard to show up for ourselves. If every step forward is followed by self-judgment, growth starts to feel like punishment instead of care. Investing in yourself isn't about fixing something that's broken. It's about supporting something that's growing.
That's such an important distinction. When you see yourself as broken, every mistake feels like proof. But when you see yourself as growing, mistakes become part of the process. And growth is never linear. There are days when you feel motivated and hopeful, and days when you feel tired, discouraged, or disconnected. That doesn't mean you're going backwards. It just means you're human.
Exactly, and this is where identity plays a huge role. When someone says, "I'm not the kind of person who sticks with things," or "I always quit," they're not describing a fact. They're repeating a story. But stories can be rewritten. And the way you rewrite them isn't with big declarations, it's with evidence. Small evidence, quiet evidence. Every time you show up, even briefly, you're collecting proof that the old story isn't fully true anymore.
And that's why small habits matter so much. They're not just actions, they're messages. They tell your brain, I care. I'm trying. I haven't given up. Over time, those messages sink in. And one day, without even realizing it, you stop saying, I'm trying to change, and start saying, this is just what I do.
And that shift is powerful, because once something becomes part of who you are, it no longer feels heavy. It feels natural. Learning English stops being something you force yourself to do and becomes something you make space for. Taking care of yourself stops feeling selfish and starts feeling necessary. That's what it means to invest in yourself, to build a relationship with yourself that's based on trust, patience, and respect.
And patience is key here. We live in a world that celebrates fast results, but deep change happens slowly, quietly, often invisibly. If someone listening feels like they've been working on themselves for a long time and still feels behind, I'd say this: you're probably further along than you think. Growth doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like awareness. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like saying no.
Yes. And staying with yourself during those quieter seasons is also an investment. Not every phase of life is about adding more. Some phases are about letting go. Letting go of unrealistic expectations. Letting go of comparison. Letting go of the idea that you need to become someone else to be worthy. You're allowed to grow at your own pace. You're allowed to take breaks. You're allowed to begin again more than once.
And beginning again doesn't mean you failed before. It means you didn't give up. That's something we don't say often enough.
So if someone is listening right now and feeling frustrated with themselves, I hope they hear this. Being gentle with yourself is not giving up on growth. It's choosing a form of growth that you can actually live with. And when you combine self-compassion with small, honest action, that's when real change becomes possible.
Because then, something is finally changing. And when something changes, everything else slowly follows.
Because sometimes, when we talk about growth and change, people leave feeling inspired but also overwhelmed. And that's not the intention here. You don't need to transform your whole life after this episode. You don't need a perfect plan or a dramatic decision. You just need honesty. A moment of listening to yourself and asking, what do I need right now?
Yeah. And I think that's a question many people are not used to asking. We're so focused on doing, producing, improving, that we forget to check in with ourselves. Sometimes investing in yourself means learning something new. Sometimes it means resting. Sometimes it means stopping and admitting, I've been pushing too hard. And all of that counts. All of it is growth. The phrase, nothing changes, if nothing changes, isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to empower you. Because it reminds you that change is possible. Not someday, but today. Through small choices that are already within your reach.
And those small choices matter more than you think. One page read. One sentence spoken. One kind thought toward yourself. One moment of courage when you don't feel ready. These moments don't disappear. They stay with you. They build something inside you, slowly, quietly, patiently. And one day, you look back and realize that the life you're living now was shaped by those tiny decisions you once thought didn't matter.
If you're listening to this and feeling like you're behind, I want to say this clearly. You're not. You're exactly where you need to be to take your next step. Growth isn't a race, it's a relationship. With time, with effort, and with yourself. And like any relationship, it needs patience and trust. You don't need to rush, you just need to stay.
So maybe after this episode, take a quiet moment, no phone, no distractions, just you. And ask yourself one gentle question. What is one small change I'm ready to make? Not 5, not 10, just one. And then when you can act on it, not perfectly, not forever, just today.
And remember, we're right here with you. Every time you press play, every time you listen, every time you try again, you're already investing in yourself. And that matters.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us, for listening, reflecting, and choosing to be here. This is English Inside Out, and we're really glad you're part of this space. Take care of yourself, be patient, and keep going.